Many years ago, Enzo Ferrari had a dream that grew into an icon and became recognised the whole world over. A dream that these days looks like this. When it comes to looks, I think this is probably the prettiest Ferrari since those of the 1960s. But Ferrari says the 458 hasn't been designed with beauty foremost in mind. No, every detail has been engineered to serve a purpose. For example, the vanes in the front bumper are precisely crafted to bend when the car is moving quickly by up to 20mm, creating extra downforce on the nose. A common problem for race engineers is that the front wheels of a car generate high pressure under the wheel arches at speed, which apparently lifts weight off the front suspension and reduces the car's grip. So, with the 458, they've strategically placed vents in the front wings that allow the air to escape and channel it over the arches to push the car back down again. Despite reaching a top speed of over 200 miles per hour, this 4.5-litre V8 will return over 21 miles per gallon on a combined cycle, with respectable CO2 emissions of 307 grams per kilogram. Yet, at both high and medium revs, it delivers 20% more torque than the 430 did. Now, all of this science is phenomenally impressive, but to me, it's still not as important as the car's outstanding beauty. And I maintain that the 458 has the potential to make you more attractive to the ladies than Johnny Depp glazed in honey. So, as you can imagine, I thought this car was amazing from the second it arrived, and I hadn't even driven it. But therein lay the problem. You see, I had to be objective, and as we couldn't seem to find a single negative review of this car anywhere, I was told that I had to find at least 3 things that I didn't like. This was not going to be easy, but it wasn't long before I managed to find something a little odd. You see, the 458 has no indicator or wiper controls. At least no traditional indicator or wiper controls. They've been stolen. All the functions that you would normally expect to find on the steering column have in fact been moved to the steering wheel, which is actually closer to your fingertips, and yet potentially my first negative point. Now, you're never going to notice this on the track, but put it around a busy rush hour island and things become interesting. You put your indicator on, slightest twitch to the left, that indicator is now cancelled and I'm looking for the button again. But it's gone. Now, if I want to come off this island, I've now got to push this button here, which is now on the right. Minor point, just saying. And this gets even more complicated when you start looking for the main and dip beam for the headlamps. See, ironically, most of the controls on the steering wheel are illuminated at night. It's really easy to find the button that softens the suspension for uneven road surfaces, but meet another car on a dark country lane while you're on a bend and things are a little more challenging. In fact, you've usually passed them, blinded them, and watched them vanish through a hedge in your rear view mirror before you found the dip beam switch. So this is a slightly negative point perhaps, but so far it's the only one I've found. And I honestly cannot think of any legitimate reason that may prevent anyone from buying an Italia. Perhaps I wasn't trying hard enough. I'd heard that other programs had managed to find a more serious fault with the high-tech gamer-style instruments. So could this provide me with a legitimate dislike? After all, a very famous presenter had mentioned previously that under certain circumstances, the Italia's speedometer could completely vanish. Promising. See, there are screens either side of the rev counter. The one on the left tells me all sorts of very technical Formula One style information. The one on the right is a speedometer, or the sat-nav, or the mobile phone, or the radio, but never all at the same time. So at first glance it would appear that you knew where you were when you broke the speed limit, but not necessarily have any idea how fast you were going. But that's okay, because if you look very closely at the bottom of the left-hand side screen, there's a small reserve speedo. Very useful. Panic over. So the crazy display may be a slightly odd feature that could take a bit of getting used to, but it's not really a genuinely negative point. No, I was not doing well. How hard could it possibly be to find 3 things that I didn't like? So, in sheer desperation and in the interests of objectivity, I started reading blogs from the one group that I would normally avoid listening to at all costs: the PC lobby. After all, they find faults with everything that moves. But the more I read, the less I agreed. You see, some people would argue that this car is simply impractical and would be completely useless if you had more than one child. But I say that's just being picky, and where there's a will, there's a way. Yes, the Italia's boot space is so large that you can even accommodate excess passengers. So impracticality is not a valid excuse. There are those who say that this car has no place in the real world, and the only place you could really enjoy a Ferrari is on the track. But there's one thing that most tracks don't have: tunnels. The Italian attitude towards exhausts is that they should allow engines to sing. It's okay, it's loud, it's good, bella, bella. Which of course makes it rather addictive. I've just driven 10 miles out of my way to use that tunnel, and I'm now going to be very, very late. But I don't care. Should we go again? Other V8s may make a noise, but they don't necessarily sing to you. This one does. It doesn't just roar, it makes music. But even here, the science takes over because the silencers are equipped with bypass valves that come into play when you put your boot down. At lower revs, exhaust gases flow through a pair of smaller size diameter pipes Siamese together in the center. But at higher revs, the ECU channels all of the exhaust gases directly into the 2 outer pipes, which makes it quite legally loud. So it's spacious for a supercar, a joy to drive in everyday life, and it makes music, not noise. Even the PC brigade had failed to put forward a negative point with any credibility, and my fault-finding luck appeared to have completely run out. In fact, the more I drove, the more I couldn't help justifying even the tiny quibbles that I'd already found. This is more like a game controller than a steering wheel, which is probably why we're having so much trouble getting to grips with it. We're all just too old. So, other possible negatives: awful visibility at angled junctions. Almost every sports car and van in the world shares the same problem. Nope, trivia. Fantastically expensive to buy with ionospheric running costs. That's only a problem for people who couldn't afford one anyway. Lengthy waiting list. Heightens the anticipation. No. Once again, minor trivial grumbles that I honestly could not put down as genuine negatives. In fact, wearing my practical hat and elbow pads for a moment, I can actually find positive practical points rather than negative ones. A 4-year warranty is standard, and the benefit of Ferrari's magnificent resale values. The fact that you no longer have to shoehorn yourself into a Ferrari because the cabin is now so light and spacious. Plus, there's room for light luggage behind the 2 seats. Now that's practicality. Even reliability isn't an issue anymore because modern Ferraris are every bit as reliable as sports cars produced on the other side of the Alps in southern Germany. They're just as well made too, and finished with even more care. In fact, the 458's interior is stunning to look at, and sensuous to the touch. So, after due consideration, I could honestly say that I'd failed completely in my mission to answer the editorial mandate for moaning, And I turn my attentions to a far easier subject, the many reasons for liking it. This car has a 7-speed semi-automatic twin-clutch gearbox. In fully automatic mode, this car will burble quite quietly through town at 30 miles an hour in 7th gear. On a motorway, 70 is a mere 3,000 RPM, but flick that switch on the steering wheel and instantly the engine note changes. The Italia is now armed and very dangerous. The car's default road setting is sport, but with the Manettino switch set to race, everything instantly becomes edgy. Even driven as an automatic, the gears snap rapidly up and down, giving spectacular engine braking and throttle response that literally takes your breath away. And there is only one place where I can show you exactly what I mean. Okay, here we go. We're going to start with launch control. That's this big button down here, which bleeps to tell me it's engaged. I've now got a little launch symbol underneath my gear number. Floor the accelerator, foot flat to the floor. 3, 2, 1, go. That is good to 63.4 seconds. The big engine redlining all the way to 9,000. So the Italia then walks a fine line between genius and insanity. The steering takes just 2 turns to go from lock to lock, and the car responds with the precision of a fighter jet. It's probably the most alive car in the world because, just as humans have nerves that send messages to the brain, this car actually feels things. For example, it has a fuel control system that senses ionization currents generated by the spark plug electrodes and effectively regulates its own heart rate by altering the spark advance. I could tell you that all this is not rocket science, but of course I'd be lying. To that. That is amazing! God, that's so quick! Whoa. Even now, there are certain paddle shift systems that I cannot stand, but this is something else. Other systems may be good, but this is unbeatable. Then there's the power. It doesn't produce 480, 490, or even 500. It produces 570 horsepower. It's staggering. That is amazing. This is unlike any other car in the world, and by unlike, I mean better. Much, much better. This car's base price is £170,000, and that is a lot. I mean, even by Ferrari standards. But at the end of the day, it is just sublime, and I now think that I know why I couldn't find any negative reviews. There just aren't any. To me, it is one of the best cars in the world. I mean, not just on the market today, but in the whole of motoring history. The 458 Italia is then more than a car. It's a legend, a dazzling icon that begins a whole new chapter of the history books.